Hello, my name is Buddy Childress, and I'm Executive Director of Needles Eye Ministries. We are really happy to have you with us today for our monthly speaker series. We hope you enjoy it. It's my treat to introduce a very close, dear friend of mine for a long time, Tom Gallagher, who is the president of the Central Virginia Better Business Bureau. Now, Tom is not from Richmond. He came here in 80 or 81?
Yep.
One. He is from, he says, near Philly, but he's really from southwestern New Jersey. So I don't know whether it's a Jersey Shore type of address or not, but you can ask him that afterward. However, he did grow up near Philadelphia. After graduating from high school, went in the Air Force, and I have someone for you to meet after this luncheon, okay? He served in Vietnam for 3 years, came back, and then
1 year in Vietnam.
3 years total?
Four.
Four?
1 year in Vietnam, 4 years altogether.
Okay. The person I'm going to introduce you to will want to know this, and he's listening to it as we speak, but I'll tell you who that is later. Anyway, he came back, and in 1969, went with the Better Business Bureau, and except for a short interlude, has been with the BBB ever since. He came to Richmond in 1981, and we met shortly thereafter. You'll hear a little bit about that in a moment. He and Jerry, his wife, have 4 sons. They have 3 daughters-in-law, 1 soon-to-be daughter-in-law, and 12 grandkids. In his entire life, and many of you have seen his face, listened to him on the radio and television, I can tell you this about Tom: he is fanatical. He is fanatical about 3 things. He is fanatical about the Philadelphia Eagles, which I do not understand. I grew up here. I do not care about the Eagles. And I have heard it on and on all the time, particularly since Michael Vick early on was quarterback. I mean, I couldn't, it was all the time. He's fanatical about the Eagles. He is, and this one I can understand, he's fanatical about his grandkids. We have 7, they have 12. Probably won't ever catch him. But there is something different about grandkids. And thirdly, he is fanatical about people taking advantage, or companies taking advantage of people, particularly elder fraud. I will come from downstairs and come up to the bedroom, getting ready to go to bed at night. The news is on at 11, and Laura says, "Tom was just on." And I will say to her, "Was he frothing at the mouth?" Because when elder fraud's going on, I'm telling you what, I would not want to be those guys in that company trying to do whatever they're trying to do. That is my friend. You guys are in for a treat today. Help me welcome the president of the Central Virginia Better Business Bureau, Tom Gallagher. You want some water?
So I don't usually notice when something is wrong with the American flag, but look what's not on top of that American flag right now. There's not an eagle on there, and every other American flag you ever see has an eagle on top of it, as well there should be. And then the other thing is that I realized yesterday the reason Buddy likes so much about elder fraud is because he needs it. He needs the he's reached the, and here's the other, even another thing. I'm 3 years older, but hasn't life been bad to Buddy? It's not been a kind thing. It's not been a kind experience, and he looks every ounce of his age. He does. He's earned every wrinkle. That's true too. Now this is hard for me. Part of my life is talking about what I do. This is different. I'm talking this time about who I am. That presents an entirely set of circumstances. So I'm going to start by asking Almighty God to bless all of us, bless us here where we are, bless the food that we eat, bless the folks who work here, our friends, our families, everybody that we have. And I ask him right now that my words are his and his only, at least just for the next 20 minutes. So I love question 0. I just really love question 0. I went away for a week-long management seminar on nonprofit management several years ago. And the first thing on the first day was learning about question 0. Question 0 is, what exactly are we trying to accomplish? How many times a day could I say to myself, what exactly am I trying to accomplish? I had 2 meetings this morning, and I needed to know what exactly I was trying to accomplish in each one of those meetings, and then remind those folks who were with me there what exactly we were all trying to accomplish. So for the next 20 minutes, my goal is to share as much as I possibly can about my ethical faith journey. That's it. I know I'm going to heaven. There's no question in my mind about that. I know I'm going to heaven. That's a given. I just have to fill the time between now and then. And what am I going to do with that time? How do I fill those hours, those weeks, hopefully those years, maybe hopefully those years? I might be the only person you've ever met who was born in Camden, New Jersey. Anybody? 3 days, buddy. 3 days. 3 days in a row. I've asked that question, and nobody has ever met anyone else born in Camden, New Jersey. I was. That's where I started out. My family is ordinary. My father is ordinary. My mother's ordinary. Same for my sister. She's ordinary. I tend to think my faith is ordinary. Very simple. I've been able to avoid complicating it. My mom was a teacher in Camden High School. That was a tough school. She was little. She was your 11th grade English teacher. My mother's in the grave 25 years, and I'm still scared of my mother. I will not use lie and lay in a sentence. I won't do it. My dad came to South Jersey after finishing college in upstate PA. Dad was a math teacher in either Westville or Woodbury, New Jersey. I can't remember which one it was. He was the math teacher in that town. Sadly, he had to get out of teaching because you couldn't support a family at that time. A man couldn't support a family on a teacher's salary, so he had to get out of it. My sister was a teacher, too. She taught French, some Spanish. I graduated number 353 out of a class of 357 from Collingswood High School, and flunked out of college at the end of first semester and went into the Air Force. I went a different, the road less traveled. It's just me and Thoreau. Man, I was going my own way. But I went to church school all the way through Catholic schools, parochial schools, all the way through elementary school and part of high school. I've got a different take on the nuns from some other folks I know, but similar to most. It was a great education. I learned early on that I was loved, if not by the nuns, then by Almighty God. I got that message, maybe beat into me sometimes, but I got that message, but I knew I was special to God. Now, my ordinary family went to Mass every Sunday. I had the blessing of a structured faith life. That's all I knew about. Frankly, I don't believe I ever missed Mass or missed going to church on Sunday until I moved away, maybe at age 20, 19 or 20, and it was in the service. My life was that well formed. I was really prayer was in the middle of our lives. Every meal began with a blessing. Many ended with a blessing. We didn't have a complicated faith. We had a very thorough faith. I remember as a kid that I had a picture of Jesus as a kid, 10, 11, 12-year-old, hanging on my wall. And my mother reminded me from time to time just who Jesus was and that he was a little boy too. Isn't that a great affirmation to give a 10 or 11 or 12-year-old boy? Wasn't I fortunate? And Mary and Joseph, they were big. We used to call them the Holy Family. So I'm a lucky guy. I'm blessed of that, I'm sure. But lucky too. I've been brought up in a faithful family. Now, I've been able to get to a reasonably peaceful place in life without having to overcome something really horrible. I didn't have to break any drug or alcohol addictions. Like all of us, I've had challenges. I started with a BBB in 1969 and left after about 5 years. For about five years, I went into PR and marketing. At one point, I worked for a barracuda. The guy had sharp teeth, he had bad breath, he had everything. I remember all of these things. I wound up being afraid to do work, because of his violent reactions. This would have been back in the mid-70s, we'll say, which was a time not too dissimilar from right now, those of us who lived through that time. A lot of people were out of work. I had 2 little boys, and I was afraid for my job. Now, there's a concept that a lot of people don't understand, being afraid for your job, that you're going to get the axe, or what will happen if you get the axe. We didn't have the safety nets around that we did right now. Frankly, I was afraid, and I'd come home at night and wanted to get in bed almost immediately. I needed to hide. A friend suggested I go to see a doctor friend of his. So I got to this doctor's office about 7 o'clock or so. The office was in his house. Remember that? He had 4 or 5 different examining rooms over in a wing of his house. And he asked me what was wrong with me. I said, what a great doctor. Why are you asking? Anyway. And he tapped me on the knee and asked me some questions and go to visit another patient. And about 15 minutes later, he'd come back and look in my eyes and ask me some more questions. This went on for quite a while. He was a super guy, though. Around 9 o'clock or so, he came in and tapped me somewhere else and listened to something else. And he asked me a question. What are the 3 most important things in your life, Tom? And I said, well, my family, my job, my career. And he went down the hall to examine somebody else. And he came back in about 15 minutes and looked in another ear, another eye, or something like that. And then he said, where's the Lord in your life? And I said he was really important to me. And the doc said, not one of the top 3, and walked out. And let me stew on that one for just a little while. This was in the days before we had cell phone. And this was about, anyway, he actually called my wife to tell her I was okay. He was just giving me a good going over. Boy, was he ever. I didn't get home until around 2 o'clock in the morning, as I recall. He explained the Lord to me that night in a way I had never heard him explained. He changed my life forever that night. Kind of brought me to faith fruition. He helped me to match my existing ordinary faith to the reality of a living God. I had never, ever thought of God as anything other than a distant lead character, just out there. He's my God. There's no question the God was around, but this was a different person, a different God. This was a different person coming to me. And I realized from that moment forward that God knew me as an individual, not so much me knowing him, but him knowing me. God loving me, I knew that. Everything about me. God was no longer in the abstract. He became very real and part of my everyday life. This God paved the way for me to get into heaven by sending his Son to clear the path for me to do that. He gave me, everything was cleared up for me. He forgave my sins even before I committed them. When I moved to Richmond 31 years ago this month, I was introduced within a week to Needles Eye Ministry. Buddy and I had breakfast. I had a lot of things going on in my life. Miracles are so cool. Everybody who knows me knows that I really believe in everyday miracles. They just happen all the time. It had to be the Lord's hand in this thing. It was the Lord's hand that we went to Aunt Sarah's for breakfast, and I probably picked up the tab. Some things have never changed. And within a week, I was at a luncheon, at a luncheon like this. Attending my first one, I met Dave Barrett there. A lot of folks that know him. We sat alongside of each other, and this was 31 years ago. Along the way, wonderful people have intersected with me. Some are theologians, some are business folks, some are just everydayers like us. Buddy has been used as an influencer in my life. Ken Blanchard, the guy who wrote The 1 Minute Manager, Raving Fans, other management milestone books, including Leadership by the Book, which speaks to the leadership methods of Jesus in the Bible. This really hit me where I needed to be because I like business. I don't plan, but I sure do like the theory of strategic planning. Jesus was the greatest strategic planner of all times. He had no equal. This relates to me. He was coming into Jerusalem, and he told 2 guys to go and bring back a colt for him to ride in on. He even had prepared the owner of that colt. It's for the master. He told a couple of the other guys, Peter and John, I believe, to go get the room ready for at least 13 of them for the Last Supper. And the landlord knew he was coming before the guys knew it, before his guys knew it, that he was prepared for them. So I want to speak with you for a few minutes about, let's call it, job-applied Christianity. What could that possibly mean, job-applied Christianity? It means, so far as I'm concerned, applying the servant leader model, applying Christianity in my management style and responsibility. It means doing the right thing for the right reasons, even when it may not be expedient or certainly may not even be profitable. Without God, I have no moral compass. Without God, I have no need for a moral compass. Without the real Christ in my life, I'd only be running a self-suspended ethical metronome. That's all it would be without the grounding of Almighty God. It has been suggested to me frequently in high school and college presentations that sometimes you have to do something unethical in order to have a good result in the long run. Nope, I have never seen that. I have never seen that happen. I've seen some expedient reactions and responses, but never anything unethical or wrong that doesn't end up that way, ever. Those things are just that. They are unethical and wrong. We can't expect ethical behavior from our kids, our cohorts, our associates, our subordinates if we don't live that life ourselves. It's impossible. Think about the mess right now going on, high-profile mess in Atlanta with that school system down there, where people in the administration shaved points, changed grades, did all that kind of stuff, for a very good reason, by the way, probably to keep the funding going on, the granting going on, but you know what? They've been indicted for violating the law. Somebody turned over my page. Right now. So how can we as a society not expect our own kids to cheat when we model that behavior for them? How can we expect our kids not to cheat when we lie about their ages, or grandkids, about their ages at the movies or on a kids' meal? We should never expect ethical behavior from our employees, from our associates, when we don't display it ourselves during a customer transaction or a personnel issue. And our own employees should be expected to lie, cheat, shade deals when we exhibit that very same behavior with them or our competitors. We are teaching them to do that. We are encouraging them to do that. And we are telling them to go ahead on and be unethical. There are many things in my life, though, that guide my way. I'll tell you, my role is no different from anyone else's. I still have employees. I have customers who would be the members of the Better Business Bureau. And I have clients who are the consumers that call us up needing information or assistance or something like that. Frequently, nobody would almost, I would say never, would anybody know when I was doing something unethical or something that would be immoral as far as business goes. Well, two people would know every time. That would be me and Jesus. Jesus would know. I'm not willing to pay that price. My faith has been tuned most of the time to a needle point. I know when I can't, when I'm not putting out all the time. I know my pressure points, my ego points, my quick tongue and such. I'm not a risk today to stop at a bank and rob it on the way out of here. I probably won't do that. I'm not at a risk to knock that over, or I'm pretty safe. Schoolyards are pretty safe around me. But I could be to something else in a telephone conversation this afternoon. I sure could do that, or speaking with an employee. Like every CEO and leader, I have to separate folks from our organization, no matter how much trouble they cause, no matter how poorly they perform, no matter how bad they do their jobs. They deserve everything. I need to remember always that at home, there's still dad, or mom is still the top of the family tree, and I'm hitting that person, no matter whether they deserved it or not. I'm executing a terrible piece of our responsibility. I had a person several years ago who worked for me. She was a bad hire. It was kind of a political hire. Anybody who works for other boards of directors, or anyway, she came, and I had her. And my job is to make anyone else excellent. That's what my role is. My job isn't to do the work of the Better Business Bureau. My job is to make it better, make it easier for our folks to do a wonderful job. That's what I do. Well, this person was incapable of making hard decisions. This person couldn't face conflict in business. We're in the conflict business. That's what we do. We're in the this person was afraid of me in the way I had been afraid of that guy before. And I promise I didn't act like him. But in that person's mind, I'm sure that I did. I shared with some expert HR people, leadership from our board. In short, I needed to start the dehiring process. There's a term for you a term for us to consider, isn't it? The dehiring process. We know what that means. You start documenting, memo, meeting. I was watching this poor soul go down even deeper. I prayed and asked for guidance. I asked for the right thing for me to do. I believed my call, and I did this. I believed it. I called my associate into my office. I said, I know where this is going, and so do you. You need to find another job. This person was protected in virtually every sense. But I couldn't do this because I felt it was unethical. And I did that. My associate dissolved into tears, both from probably a feeling of failure and fear, but I'm sure also of relief. She turned it around within a day or so to relief. I paid out another month or so of vacation. I extended benefits. Since that horrible process would have taken a lot longer, I just figured I'd pay this person through the end of ever how long that would have been, another month or so, and just cut the cord. By the way, several folks know Wally Stettinius. Wally Stettinius has this great thing that he'll say every chance. I've heard him say it 3 or 4 times when he's given a seminar or symposium. All right, how many of you folks out there have somebody working for you you'd be better off to pay to stay home? And everybody's holding because you don't want to be the guy raising your hand. Isn't that the truth? And what kind of a leader am I when I'm paying somebody that I ought to be getting rid of? I have a very supportive board of directors. They've been most encouraging to me on the positions that I've taken as CEO of BBB, on payday loans, on car title loans. While legal, the folks who are borrowing the money at what we used to consider usurious rates, they are just suffocating. Now, I will also share with you one of the reasons why payday loan companies are so successful is because these people can't find a loan anywhere else. So, as society, we have some things that we have to take a look at. Another situation required an immediate split, and it would have been unethical for me not to do something, was somebody using a postage meter for personal business. That can't be condoned. It wasn't, and I did. Leadership is about going somewhere. A simple concept, hard application. There's only one way we can lead, and that's with honesty, with absolute honesty and integrity, all the time. Leadership doesn't require being out front. It requires doing what we should do, what we should be doing, and having others do their jobs the way I want it done. That's what my job is as a leader, I believe. Also to be able to take the feedback that comes back from those folks, which is hard for me and my ego because I'm usually right. It's the way it is. My Christian faith gives me all the tools I could possibly need as a CEO of a Better Business Bureau. Any place else for that matter. As a husband, as a father, it's easier for me to run the Better Business Bureau that way than it is to be a husband and a father. It's easier when I'm away from home, but you know that's the way I am. Any place else for that matter. While it's not always easy, the path is always clearly marked. It requires one step after another and no deviation. Buddy mentioned the senior citizen stuff, the elder fraud, and I do go nuts on that. I really do. I've not frothed publicly on that one, but I have in private. And here's what gets me. It's not so much taking the money. That's bad. It's the assault on dignity that just drives me. These are folks who have nobody to talk. In 10 years, I'll be 78. My kids don't want to talk to me now. Suppose I lose my wife. I'm going to want to call my kids. They all have their own businesses. How are they going to find the time to talk to me? Suppose I make a mistake, which can happen and probably will happen with money. And I'll say, Dave. Oh, I don't want to tell Dave. Denny. No, not Denny. Wait a minute. John. Oh, and PJ. Anyway. Dad, how could you do that? All your life, you taught people never to do that kind of thing. Dad, you always taught us never to do that kind of thing. What will it take me to be able to call my sons and tell them I've been screwed out of $4,000? All 4 of my sons will have the same answer. They will say, Dad, let me take the checkbook, Dad. Let me take care of that for you, hon. Whatever you want. What do you want, 100 a week, 200 a week, 500 a week? You got it. Could you imagine what that would mean to me? What that would mean to any one of us sitting in here saying to our children, I can't handle my own affairs anymore. That's what gets me with the elder fraud, with the senior fraud stuff, or anybody else who gets taken if anything happens to anybody in this room, shame on you. You should have known better. You didn't do your homework. Well, that's not all the way true. But the fact is we have the tools to protect ourselves. When you're taking advantage of somebody else, that's not right. One thing I do want to touch on is the impact of small groups in my life. Everything in my life is miraculous, I believe. And small groups, the importance of small groups in my life just can't be overstated or underestimated. I'm part of a couple of them, as a matter of fact. One where I meet with other CEOs. We meet once a month for 4 hours. That's a time commitment. And another one we meet every Tuesday morning at my office. It's miraculous that these things happen at my office because The one on Tuesday used to be on Wednesday noon, and a guy came sort of tripping to the BBB office when I had been really on a backslide. I wasn't doing stuff bad. I just wasn't doing anything. This was 20 or 25 years ago. A guy came in named Ralph Anderson and said, Mr. Gallagher, we meet downtown. There's a Bible study that's put on by a group named Needle's Eye, and I'm thinking, I know all about Needle's Eye. I had just slipped way, way back. And we need a place to have a meeting every week. And somebody said something about the Better Business Bureau, maybe having a couple of conference rooms, and I just shook my head. I said, here comes the mountain right at Muhammad. I cannot get away from this. They're bringing this to me. The Lord's putting this thing in my office. We moved over to Southside 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. And I was going to have to leave my Wednesday group, which was downtown. So I was talking to Lisa about what was going on over there, and another guy named Bob Fitch, whom some of you would know, had a Tuesday morning group going at his office and had 6, 8, maybe 10 guys. But they wanted to do a study on C.S. Lewis, Mere Christianity. And we would need more space. And the next thing you know, we had 18 or 20 people. And I had a whole training room. Matter of fact, I've got two good-sized conference rooms. And I said to Lisa before we moved, I wonder how the Lord's going to use this real estate. Isn't that something that it just happened just like that? It's not coincidence in my life. Never is. It's the Lord's hand. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have this time. I've been able to speak over my allotted 20 minutes. Buddy is back there frothing at the mouth yet again. So Buddy said to me, name tag's over there. I don't have my name tag on, but I knew. And I said to Bob Withers, I put my name tag on. I said, I'm not going to put it on because it'll drive Buddy nuts. And I got back over there before I started speaking, and Buddy says, where's your name tag? We got a name tag here for you. He goes over and says to Lisa and what about his name tag? Well, we gave him his name tag, and I just was holding it in my hand. I held it out to him, and he just walked off. He knew it. He knew what was going to. It doesn't take much. It's easy to do it. So thank you so much.
The reason there's a concern about name tags he didn't tell you, and that is that he keeps 3 calendars. I don't know how anybody does keep 3 calendars. Oh, no, there's one other person that does. His name is Graham Reese. Yeah. He keeps 3 or 4 calendars. So when you got a guy that, he's got one in the car, one at the office, and I don't know where the third one is, you do worry about some details. But other than that, I mean, what can I say? Except thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, a wonderful message. We've done this each time now. We've had a question or two from the audience. So other than questions about name tags, do you have any question for Tom? It could be personal, it could be BBB related, certainly something relevant to what you've heard today. Anybody have a question? Bob.
Buddy, since you brought up Tom's Air Force career, that was a turbulent time in the military. Did that have any influence on your ethical upbringing?
No. I have to tell you that even though I started going when I was stationed at Lackland in San Antonio, I was in a motor pool. I thought that was the bottom of the barrel. It was the pits. It was the lowest job in the Air Force. It was, except I had wheels. Wheels are really big when nobody else has wheels. It's a wonderful thing. They used to have a midday mass at one of the churches here. Some days I would go to that, just if I didn't have something else going on. I've really always been blessed. In Vietnam, I learned how to pray a lot faster a couple of times. You learn the meaning of speed. I learned that I can crawl faster than a grown man can run because I did it. I passed a guy on all fours. It's just the motivation that you got. It's just the motivation that you got. So, no, I've really been fortunate. Then I would slide back. I would just be lethargic. I would say I was never not a believer. I would just be lethargic. It was almost like when I get off my exercise routine. You still consider yourself an exerciser, but you haven't been for 3 or 4 days. That kind of thing.
One last question. Anybody? Raymond.
Well, it's easy to be king. There's a whole lot of things that I do or that I get away with just because I'm the CEO. That's it's just the way it is. I do not go out of my way. Everybody there knows where I am. I'm not at all afraid to say God bless you. I end a lot of my foot when I remember to do it, when I feel it's even marginally okay. I do that with anybody. More for me than for them. I'm not at all reluctant to pray with people and initiate the prayer when they're going to get operated on or something like that. I just, that's broad. I don't know how I would be if I were 37 and had just taken, or 38 and just taken this operation over. I probably would look at things differently, but hopefully not too differently.
Good question, Raymond. Thank you, and good answer. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Really a wonderful series. And for those of you who would like to hear it again or have a friend you might want to see it or hear it, we have videoed it today, and you'll be able to go online and get that. I want to call your attention to the card, which Lisa mentioned at the end of her remarks, and ask you to fill the bottom part of that out. If you'd pick that up very quickly and take a pen, we have a few in the middle of the table, I think, if you don't have one. I'd like to call your attention to the top of that card. There are 5 response options there. I want to go through those very quickly with you, and then we'll have a closing prayer and be on our way. Today, you've heard a wonderful message from a known business person here about how his faith affects his work. But maybe this issue of faith in this person of Jesus is something in someone you're not altogether certain about. And you would like to be a part of a short study exploring faith in Jesus. If that's where you are, please let us know that, and we'll get back with you and tell you when that is, and hopefully you can make it. The next option talks about a Why Jesus booklet. This booklet is the core of a study that's about 20 years old called the Alpha Course. You may have seen signs about it in different church parking lots and front yards. It started in England about 20 years ago. It is an excellent course. This is the core book of it, little booklet, talks about why Jesus came and who he is. If you'd like to have that, maybe read it in the privacy of your home or office. Let us know. We'd be happy to send it to you. The third option has to do with just talking about today's talk that you'd like to share. Talk with somebody about what you heard today. If that's where you are, let us know that. The next option is one that we often do at the end of a series like we've just finished today, and that is to get together a group and explore how you integrate your faith and your work. If you're interested in that, please let me know. We'll get back with you, tell you when that study will be, and hopefully it'll fit your calendar. And the last option has to do with what Tom ended with, and that is his involvement and commitment to small groups. We really believe in small groups. There are about 60 of those now that we have around town. Most meet weekly, some meet monthly. They're for Christian presidents. Most are segregated by gender, although we do have a few co-ed groups. So if you're interested in being a part of a group of guys or gals that trying to help each other do it right, particularly Monday through Friday, let us know, and Lisa would love to get back with you on that. Again, Tom, thank you for a wonderful series, man. I really appreciate it. Would you bow with me in a closing prayer, and then we'll be on our way. Father, thank you for today and for the previous 3 days of Tom's message and your truth in his life and through his life. I pray that for each of us here, that we would leave having been drawn a little closer to you, that you would continue to use this message in our hearts to draw that process even closer. And we thank you for your love for us in spite of who we are. We thank you for your grace and your forgiveness. And for those who don't quite yet know that, we pray you would make that very real. And we ask it all in Jesus' name. Amen.